Hi, everybody. So great. There we go. So we're going to get started here in a second. Today is field trip day. We're going to start here in the office, and then we're going to go on the field trip. So we'll cut off at field trip time, and then we will add the field trip via Zoom into the platform. So that's kind of how it's going to work today. Hello.
Look at me like that. You look so late.
Oh,
shut up. I was talking on Tuesday at Serrano's last night. Tony walked in. I'm like, Tuesday at Serrano's.
Oh.
They have really delicious watermelon margaritas.
Oh, yes. So delicious.
I've never had
Oh,
them.
she's bringing the packets. There.
They're
Their mango margaritas are good too.
They're asada French fries are like, ooh.
Yeah, I had a hard time choosing what I was going to eat. Everything it was good.
Did you say Serrano? You went to Serrano's?
Uh-huh.
I always get their shrimp tacos. Those are my
That's what I got.
favorite.
The Chipotle shrimp tacos.
Yeah.
Yeah, those
I-
are good.
I
Yeah, their
just-
food is really good.
I always get to the point though that I know I'm gonna get sick of them. Like I know, so I just go for the burrito. Like, I know I'm gonna get. And so then I got even a better idea. I was like, why am I spending so much money at Serrano's? So I would start going to Costco, and they have lime cilantro shrimp there. It's already like
It's
marinated.
great to talk
Those
So
are
I'll
so
be taking, and they have awesome guacamole, the same guacamole that you brought the thing, right?
Uh-huh.
So that guacamole, those tacos, and then you go get like the really good, like whatever taco shells you like, and some hot sauce. You're made in the shit. Like,
Yeah,
and
that
then-
sounds like meal prep right there.
oh, it lasts a week. Yeah, I've been eating nothing but shrimp tacos for like the last 6 months. This is all shrimp tacos.
I'm gonna go on the trip.
Yeah, it's a
There
killer
you go.
time.
All right, so today we're going to talk about kind of what you need to do a CMA, and, or when someone calls you and says, hey, I want to sell my home, what is kind of the process that you take? What do you do? So number one, you want to look up the property in MLS, and you want to see if it's sold in the past. And if it's sold before, you want to look at the history and see when they bought it, which does everyone know how to find out when they bought it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you would see the sale date on the listing. You also can look onto the tax records and it'll look at the deed date, and you'll see when they were deeded the property. So you know when they actually bought it. This property does not show in MLS that it's sold prior. And if you look on the deed date, you're going to see all the way, like 2008 is when it was deeded to them. And then before that, there was nothing. So I honestly don't know if they, because this wasn't my listing, it's Sherry's. So I don't know if they built it then. Let's see, when was it built? No, year built was 1970. So it was built in 70. This shows they deeded it in 2008. So obviously they weren't the original owner, but that's as far as it goes back to show. So that's all we know. And when you look at MLS under history, to see if it's sold before and if so when, then it doesn't show anything. So you don't get any additional information there to kind of help you. But of course you can ask them, what they bought it for and all that good stuff when you meet with them. And the other thing I do is I always pull the tax records. So you want to pull the tax records because if you don't have any past MLS information, which we wouldn't have on this one, then you want to know on the tax records, like how many bedrooms, how many baths, what's the zoning. You want to know when it was built. You want to know the size of the property, all of those different things, public sewer, anything you can find out about the property you want to know, because it's going to help you kind of figure out where the value is going to fall. And you want to know where it is, obviously too, part of town and that type of thing. So if you go past the input sheet, so when I go to a property, I always take, I don't anymore, but I used to like when I was new. It's a good practice to be in. I don't need to now because I already know kind of what it all has on it. But it's a good practice to just take the input sheet with you. And that way you can kind of fill it out as you walk through the home. And that way you don't miss anything. Because a lot of times when you go and you look at the house for the first time, I usually take some pictures of the home, like the kitchen and the bathrooms and things like that. Mainly so I can see what's been updated, the type of flooring, whether it's a gas range or electric range, microwaves built in, all those things you're asked in the input sheet. And if you don't have a photo, I guarantee you are not going to remember all those details. And if you don't take notes, I go through the house, I take tons of notes. I note like whether it's older carpet, newer carpet, which rooms have carpet, whether the master has a master bath or it doesn't, the countertops, whether it's been updated or not updated, the flooring. I mean, I take so many notes. It's usually like 2 pages of notes when I walk through a house. So I can remember everything. So when I pull comps and I'm looking at the photos of the comps, I can compare it apple to apple. You'll want other things that are important that if you don't take notes, you won't remember, and it makes a big difference. For instance, is the washer and dryer in the garage? Or is the washer and dryer has its own laundry room? Is there a laundry room or laundry closet? Is there a door out the back, out the lower level of the home? So if there's a family room in the lower level of the home, is there a door that goes out, or is it just windows? And so if you had a dog, you would have to take your dog out the front door around to the backyard. There's a lot of houses like that. And it's not very fun if you have a dog and you have to do that. Or if it does have an upper deck on the top level that goes to the backyard or looks over the backyard, are there stairs going down there? Or do you have to take the dog through the whole house in the back and go out? So things to think about, because a lot of times people just don't think about that at the moment. But they're things that you want to think about as a realtor and you want to kind of bring out as you walk through a home. If you're showing a buyer, you want to kind of help them recognize those items because it affects their lifestyle. And sometimes they're so enamored by just the features of the home that they just miss these like really important details. So the input sheet's really helpful for you. The last page where it says room level, length, width, area, you don't have to fill that out. Very few people are going to go and measure each room and put all that in there. It's there, but you don't need to fill that out. I do think it's helpful though to say the room name and the room level, or use the tool they have in Flex where it kind of does a floor plan for you, like a flow chart, that flow chart thing that they have. That's kind of beneficial if you want to do something like that because it kind of lays it out for you. But it is nice so people who are looking for, I want a house that has 2 bedrooms upstairs, but I want the laundry up. Sometimes it's hard to tell with the photos if it's upstairs or downstairs, especially if they don't label the photos. And so if you fill out the room name and level, that's really helpful. The more information you can give when you list a home, the potential buyer, the better off it's going to be, the quicker it's going to sell, and the more professional you're gonna be. So just don't skimp on these things. It's really important to have a very good detailed description of the property as well. And I like to do a description that kind of takes someone through a home, like they're feeling through the home, like a story, opposed to you have 2 bedrooms upstairs with a master bath, like you already know that from the things. So I like to make it more of a journey through the home and appeal to their senses and their emotion because people buy mostly on emotion. So that's the way I like to do it. And usually when you go and you meet with a client for the first time, you need to bring some things with you. Like you don't just show up with a notebook and nothing. they want to have some idea of what the homes is sold for in the neighborhood. But I don't do a CMA when I've never seen the home and give them the numbers. I don't ever do that. But you have no idea the condition of that home until you get there. And you're just shooting yourself in the foot, because if you come in there with a high number and then you see the house and then all of a sudden you say, well, I kind of did this ahead of time and now I see the condition and it really should be about $30,000 or less. They are not going to be happy about that. So the best approach, in that situation is to maybe say what items need to be addressed, and they can have the opportunity to take care of them now to increase their price, or not do it, and they're going to have to sell at a lower price. But majority of the time, a buyer is going to discount whatever needs to be done. Say it needs new carpet. It may cost, $7,000 to do the carpet. They're going to automatically say it's $10,000 for this carpet. So you just lost $3,000 in equity in a buyer's mind. And so sometimes it makes sense to do it ahead of time. If you can't do it ahead of time, say, they have 4 pets in the house, and it doesn't make any sense to replace the carpet and then put the animals back on the carpet, for a new buyer. But go that extra step and have a flooring company come in and do a bid on what it would be and have that available at the house, so they know what the actual number would be. And you're kind of helping them out to make the decision because they see the number right there. Opposed to, well, now they've got to call someone and try to schedule getting them in, and then they just kind of lose interest in the whole thing and they go buy a different house. They don't have to deal with that. So when you have a house that has deferred maintenance, you definitely need to go that extra step to do that. It's really beneficial. So what I always do is I pull up property that is around this property. So the first sheet that you have is going to show, it's going to have like 27 properties, right? The second sheet that you have in here, it has just 6 properties. So the one that has the 6 properties is just that legal description. So if you look at the tax records, you're going to see the legal description of the property. It's Mentzer, I believe, or Benzen is the legal, Bentzen, Benzen is the legal description for this property. So I just go into the legal description for full search, for the quick search, and pull up actives, pending, solds, coming soons that are in that legal description. And it just gives me 6 properties. So there's 6 properties that have all closed, and the only one active is this property at the moment that's in this particular, small neighborhood. It's like a little, does everyone know where this property is? Does anyone not know?
It's kind of tucked back in Spinard, Northwood. You go back, and it's like on a green belt, and right before you hit Frontage Road.
Yeah, it's kind of between the International Frontage Road and Wisconsin or Spinard Road, across from the Lakefront Hotel.
Okay, gotcha.
Kind of
I know where.
in that little pocket right
Right
there, that little square.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then if you went Northwood, by that
Elementary
preschool or
yeah.
elementary school, so it's kind of that little square there. But it's kind of a tucked away, kind of a neat little neighborhood in there. So it has its own little price point, kind of. So I pulled up that, and then the next thing I did is I pulled up everything that's kind of between, that kind of fits that criteria. So that's 3 to 4 bedrooms, 2 to 3 baths, like 1,800 to 2,400 square feet in Spinard. So it's in Area 10. So not just Spinard, but Area 10. And so that gave me 27 properties. And that's what these are. So it kind of just gives you like a very wide view of what's going on in that neighborhood. And then you can see some of them, like the ones on Bel Air and Belmont, those probably are a little bit on the higher side of what this one would be in this neighborhood. But you can always, if you're newer, you don't know all the neighborhoods yet, then a good thing to do is when you do this exercise is to just drive over, look at these neighborhoods. Okay, so how does this area compare to this area? And it's not difficult to figure that out. I mean, you just drive through and you see. And then also like the amenities of the neighborhood, the proximity to things, that type of thing is what you're looking at, and how a buyer would view it. So that's kind of where I start. So when I go to the listing, you're gonna have the broad view sheet to give them some idea, because almost they've already done some research themselves. So they've been watching. People don't just decide, oh, okay, tomorrow I'm gonna put my house on the market.
Right.
This is a process they've been thinking through longer than you've been thinking through. You have a day to kind of prepare typically, or two, when they call you and want you to come over and see their house. They've been thinking, researching for possibly months. So you have to kind of think about that. So if you go in there and you have nothing, they're gonna say, well, I know this house down the street sold, how much did it sell for? Or I know it sold for whatever, or they know what it was listed for, but they don't necessarily know what it sold for. So they're gonna be asking you that. And so that's why you take this information with you. So when they ask, you have it. So you can see that, the other property, one sold for $450, $379, $359, $795, $499, and $165. So as you can see, it's broad range in that neighborhood, that what homes have sold for. So it's kind of good to have all this, and you kind of look at the ones that are closest to this house and all of that. And it's not a bad idea to even drive by these homes prior to going into their home. So like just leave an hour early, drive by each one, kind of get a mental picture, maybe take some notes on here of your thoughts, and then take that along with you so you're prepared. And they know you're prepared. They're like, wow, they did their homework. They're prepared. I like that. But just remember that. A lot of people forget that the homeowner is going to know so much more because they have the ability to do research. They're watching Zillow every day. They're driving through the neighborhood. They're talking to their neighbors. I mean, they know it all. And it's going to not be good when you show up and you have no idea that anything's sold in the neighborhood at all, or even more like what it's sold for. So just be prepared when you go. And when you have your input sheet, that's helpful. And I always come just like we talked to the buyers, I did the same thing for sellers, but I have my own seller's presentation. And again, we have these available for you at no cost. So if you're in Bootcamp, we do them for no cost to you. We can make you one. So listing your property with Jack White, and then 10 reasons people choose me. And this is for everybody. And it's just general things. Like, I'm a business owner. You're not dealing with a salesperson. You're dealing with the owner. We're a family business. I have exceptional understanding of the selling process. I communicate face-to-face, phone, text, email to keep you updated. I provide weekly marketing campaign reports, complete with statistics from the real estate website and feedback from prospective buyers. Now, if you don't do that, don't say that. If you say you're going to give them a weekly update, you better give them a weekly update. Committed to continual training, updating resources to ensure that your property is always in front of the maximum amount of buyers. Leading brand in our area, which we are, national reach to attractive buyers. Advantages of proper pricing. So we talk about of course, the seller wants the most, the buyer wants the least amount. And so we kind of work in the middle for the market value. And then we talk about you have to pick a time or price. So essentially, if the market value is $560, if you price it at $530, you'll probably takes 24 hours to sell your house, right? If you price it under. If you price it at $550, it might take 24 days. If you price it at $580, it might take 24 weeks. $650, 2 to 4 years. So it says you start where you're comfortable. So it's kind of like a way to show them that you got to pick one or the other. So the higher you price it out of the market, the longer it's gonna take to sell. And the lower you price it under the market, then the quicker it's gonna sell. So it really depends on what they want. And if you put it at market value, then it should be what the average market time is. And then you're kind of talking about the different prices. So there's people who want the bargain price, the logical market price, and then the emotional price. And so you have to kind of look at where they are. But you just kind of explain these types of models, and then it helps them understand how to price it. Because again, the seller's the one that prices the house, not you. You give them guidance and you give them numbers, and then they are the one that ultimately choose what the price is gonna be. And then pricing for the ultimate result. So essentially, if they have no showings, no offers, then it's at least most likely 10% or more overpriced. If they're getting showings but no offers, then it's probably 5 to 10 overpriced. And if they're getting showings and they get offers, multiple offers, then it's probably priced at the right price. So you tell them we're gonna put it on the market, and then we're gonna kind of see what happens. And if we're getting a lot of showings and we're getting good feedback and we're under the market time, then we're probably doing well. Or if we go kind of over the market time that we think it should sell in, and we're not getting any offers, then we may need to adjust the price. So you talk to them up front about the expectations. And I talked to them about that with this in the very, very beginning. And then again, when you figure out the price and we do the net sheet and all that, which we will do. And then kind of getting their house ready to list. So whether you should stage it or not, it needs to be clean, it needs professional photography, that kind of thing. And then you kind of talk about the marketing strategy that you do. And then you kind of lay out, once you get a contract, the contract month and the closing month, and kind of what's scheduled to happen based on the contract. So they understand what to expect, when to expect it, and that kind of thing. And then this would be, your testimonials page. And then this would be kind of just about you in general. And then kind of the process for completing the sale, so they understand what the process is. And then the market analysis, which you're gonna have behind this sheet when you give it to them to put in their book later. And then about check white. So it's pretty simple, and it's easily, explained, and it helps you hit all the points when you're going through as well. So I think it's kind of nice to present something to them instead of just, showing up with nothing.
Those papers that you have, as far as like the emotional pricing and all of those kind of general, not specific to you.
Yep.
Can you find those here, like through marketing or?
Yes, if you want, Morgan can do this exact same thing for you and personalize it to you. Need your testimonials to put in there, and your bio, but you should have already done that when we did the Katie Core thing. So just take it right out of Katie Core and put it together for you in like 5 minutes.
5 minutes?
Pretty much. Pretty quick. And so then you can have it as a PDF. And what I do is I print like several packets and I just put them in my book, and then you can just grab and go.
Yeah.
You don't have to gotta go to the office and print it and put it together. And you have like a couple books here, a couple books at home, a buyer and a seller each, at your home and at here. So if you get called on the weekend, you don't have to come here to get it. You can just head out. So try to put things together, make it convenient for yourself, so you're always looking professional. It's really important. Does anybody have any questions before we head out? No? Okay. Well, we're going to go out to the Melvin house and we'll go look at that. We'll leave here in like 5 minutes, just a 5-minute break. And I've got room for 3 people in my car, and then we can take another if you want. So, sound good?
Yes.
All right.
Hey, Sheila.
Mhm.